Hi students, and welcome back for session 2 of JA It's My Future. Again, my name is Meg Chapman and I work at Junior Achievement, and I actually have a guest with me here for session 2. So I want to introduce my colleague Megan.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan Roth. I also, as Meg said, work for Junior Achievement. I have a similar role with Meg in that I'm working with companies to get different experiences into the classroom and hopefully inspire some students. A little thing that's different with my role is I do a little bit of grant management to help our programs relate to Colorado students. So thanks for having me, Meg.
Awesome. Well, so Megan, you weren't with us for the last session, but last time we met, we talked about brand and understanding personal brand, which I know you're familiar with, kind of a big concept. And this time our goal for the session is to learn a little bit about career clusters and the different jobs within those different career clusters, understanding a little bit more about how the students' interests might align with careers that they might want to pursue in the future.
Awesome. I'm excited to talk about career clusters. I'm sure some of you students watching this have heard the term career cluster. If not, a career cluster is a group of jobs and industries that are related by knowledge and skills that they require. So fun to explore and see how Meg and our jobs relate and land on the career clusters.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to show you guys this model first of all before we start diving into a couple of specific career clusters. This is the Colorado career cluster model. And so you might have seen this before in your classes. If you guys have started to work on your ICAP programming, you might have done this and be familiar with these already, but Colorado actually breaks down the different career clusters into these 6 different categories. And so they're grouped together, you know, by similar skill sets, again, as we mentioned. And so I think, let's see, we're gonna go ahead and dive in. Megan, when you look at this model, what do you think of when you think about your career and how it fits into these different clusters?
Yeah, I think, you and I work for the same kind of industry, so we're probably going to fall on the map at the same spots in a few areas. But definitely my role is definitely in the business marketing and public administration in many ways. I'm constantly communicating with external stakeholders, whether that be schools or companies, so there's a lot of that. And the administrative side is, I'd say, very organized in my role to keep these relationships functioning. I also do a little bit of the finance, which I mentioned earlier, of that grant management, tracking money that's coming in from these companies and where that money is being spent and allocated. So I do a lot of financial tracking on that aspect as well. How about you, Meg? What about the business and marketing?
Yeah, I think I can see how our jobs would fit into this for both of us, as you described. The other career cluster that I always think of is the hospitality, human services, and education career cluster. So, the big one here is that education and training component. Obviously, we work with students and teachers. And then we also train a lot of different volunteers and present to different professionals in a training capacity. And so this section, I think, really fits in with a lot of what we do. And then, I haven't told the students this yet. We hadn't discussed it in our prior session, but prior to working at JA, I did have a background in teaching. And so I think, my career path, although it's changed, has still kind of aligned with that education component pretty much throughout my professional life, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're really strong on the education side as far as developing curriculum, so this career cluster really fits for you. Another area that I see that this career cluster fits for me is the hospitality area. Before I was with JA, as Meg had mentioned her background, I was actually an intern with the Denver Broncos doing events at the stadium, which was an awesome experience. But again, a skill in that hospitality that has transferred into my current job is that strong communication piece of making sure everything's very organized and communicated well in order for things to run smoothly. So you can be a part of many different career clusters.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how a lot of the skills that you need to be successful in one do apply to a lot of different career clusters and models. So that even if you start out in one path, you know, a lot of times they're still applicable and you're still going to be able to use the skills in the background that you learn, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And what you said with path actually leads us into our next definition on career pathways, because you can have a skill that helps you excel in many different areas. So that brings us to our definition of career pathways, which is a small group of occupations within that career cluster. A lot of them, as we were talking about, have the same skill set. It may even that you have one really strong skill that can help you succeed in that pathway. And if you want to divert a little bit and try a different career, you just work on different skills, but they're generally along that same pathway.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us for session 2. I think the big takeaway and the big thing to think about from this session is that, you know, while it's so helpful to see how all these different careers connect and to be able to see how your skill sets can really build within one cluster and really pursue along a certain pathway, it is okay if they change. And, you know, there are also a lot of jobs out there that, you know, as we said, fall into 2 different pathways and draw skills from 2 different pathways or 2 different career clusters, which is super cool too. So,
yeah, absolutely. As you guys are looking at these career pathways and career clusters, you know, there might be skills that you have that apply to many different. It's worth exploring those different clusters just to see where your passions and skill set lie. It doesn't mean you're locked into one cluster. It just means you have more opportunities and careers out there.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today for session 2, career clusters and paths. And we will see you guys again in session 3.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Meg.